Welcome to Midlife Reclaimed, the podcast for women ready to navigate midlife with more clarity, compassion, and energy. I'm Shannon A. Swales, psychologist, writer, doggy mama, and midlife woman walking this path alongside you. Twice a month, we explore real stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you move through chronic stress, overwhelm, and burnout so you can reclaim your voice, your boundaries, and your joy. Please remember what you hear here is general information, not a substitute for personal therapy. This isn't about midlife crisis, it's about midlife reclamation. So let's begin. In this episode, I'm joined by Kim. Kim is a survivor, an author, a mother, and a fierce advocate for truth-telling. She's also a trauma-informed energy practitioner, bringing together her own lived experience with a deep commitment to supporting others on their path. Today's conversation is a very important one. We speak about domestic abuse, not just in the ways it often is understood, but in the quieter, more complex ways that it can unfold over time. The kind that doesn't always look obvious from the outside, and the kind that slowly erodes your sense of self. Kim shares her story with absolute honesty and a hell of a lot of courage, from the gradual nature of the abuse to the confusion, the self-doubt, and the way she found herself trying to survive within it. She also speaks to what helped her begin to see it clearly and how she has come to use her voice to create awareness, connection, and hope for others. Her book, The Boiling Water When Love Becomes a Trap, is a collection of stories from survivors of domestic abuse, offering both insight and validation for those who have or are living it, and understanding for those who have not. This conversation may feel heavy at times. I want to gently acknowledge that. So please take care of yourself as you listen or watch. Pause if you need to, step away if you need, and come back when you're ready. And if this conversation brings up anything for you, or if you're in need of support, please, here in Australia, where I'm from, our national 24-hour line for family and domestic violence is 1-800-RESPECT. That's 1-800-RESPECT. And wherever you are in the world, please contact your local, national, or national services for domestic abuse, or speak to your doctor. There is something deeply important in these conversations being had because, as Kim so powerfully shares, this kind of experience is often misunderstood, minimized, or unseen, even by the person living it, but the systems that surround and are supposed to be there to help a person break free from it and survive it. So my hope is that this episode offers not just awareness, but a sense of not being alone, and hopefully empowering change in our society to do better and to eradicate domestic abuse. So let's begin. Hey, Kim, welcome to Midlife Reclaimed podcast. It's absolutely wonderful to finally have you here.
Hey Shannon, it's great to be here, and I enjoyed our last chat, so I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
exploring things a little bit further and having a chat.
Yes. Well, I know we've had a couple of chats already, and one thing we both agree on, we can talk till the cows come home, as I like
Yes.
to say, as many people like to say. But we were like, let's finally hit record and have this really vital chat. And I mean, first of all, because I've gotten to know you through these chats and through other mediums over the years, but really lately with you coming on the pod. But for our listeners who may not know you, I was wondering if you can share a little bit about yourself, but also what we're coming here to talk about, which is your book, and what drove you to write this beautiful but empowering book called The Boiling Water When Love Becomes a Trap, a collection of stories from survivors of domestic abuse. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a mum and a survivor.
Mm.
Um, a healer, an advocate. I wear many hats, I
Mm.
guess.
Love it.
Um, as a second time around mum,
Mm.
because I've got two adult children who were from a previous relationship,
Mm.
as well as one child now to within a
Mm.
very healthy and loving home, thankfully.
Mm.
Wasn't going to be bringing any more children into that kind of chaos,
Yeah.
I
Mm.
guess. Um, but I guess my main reason for sort of wanting to share story, initially it was for me
Mm.
because everyone says, putting things down on paper is so therapeutic and
Mm.
all of this sort of stuff. And yes and no.
Oh, wow. Mm.
So it absolutely is because it can sort of give you that little bit of insight into what actually happened. For years, I actually minimized a lot of went
Mm.
on because I'd hear, all these other stories of what happened to other women. And
Mm.
my first thought was, well, I didn't have it that bad. Or, but
Mm.
he only did this.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it was through sort of retelling stories to other women who had been through, I guess, similar,
Hmm.
and watching the look on their face,
Mm.
or people who hadn't experienced, and then sort of seeing that utter shock. And I'm like, have I actually really downplayed it that much? And it sort of
Mm.
took a little bit of digging to sort of realize that even through starting to write this book, which my part of the story was done over a number of years because I started writing it and I actually had a little bit of a mental breakdown. I guess
Mm.
my nervous system, because it had started to heal and then I went back into all of the stories, my nervous
Mm.
system was so jarring that I had to really stop and go, oh, this isn't
Mm.
isn't helping anymore at this moment in time. And
Mm.
I shelved it for a few years
Mm.
before I came back to it. And it was through sort of, I guess, those conversations with people where
Mm.
they'd be like, oh my gosh, and like all these different reactions. I was like, really, maybe I do need to do this, but I need to do it for other
Mm.
women. Um, there's people who have got a lack of understanding around what goes
Mm.
on within,
Yes.
especially when it's over a period of time where you've had that whole gamut of like love bombing, gaslighting, everything
Mm.
kind of happened. It's not one of the, not to minimize anyone who's been through a shorter term, more dramatic
Hmm.
experience because we all are affected in our own ways,
Hmm.
but it's a different,
Mm.
I guess, experience. So
Mm.
having people to sort of be able to understand, and even people who have been through it, like what I did for so many years, it's like, but I thought I was an intelligent woman. How did I not see
Mm.
this coming? You know,
Mm.
did I deserve this? At the very
Mm.
sort of end of the relationship where it was like, will I be able to find better, or is this just who I am and what
Mm.
my baseline relationship
Mm.
is kind of going to be? It was hard to kind of imagine being in a healthy relationship.
Mm. Mm.
So being able to sort of help other women to sort of be able to see that,
Yeah.
yes, you can
Mm.
find peace. No, it's not
Mm.
always easy.
Mm. Mm.
And a lot of times, very intelligent women are can almost be targets for this kind of abuse because
Mm.
it's something to conquer. And this is about power, not love.
Oh, yeah. Wow, Kim, so many layers there, so many angles or reasons. And I feel like a connection to your heart as to why you wrote this book, for yourself, for others, and not just others who have been or are going through various different domestic abuse, but those who haven't, and
Mm,
like myself, and reading and lived experience to really capture to really try to vicariously understand, as much as they can
mm,
from an outside perspective. I'm so grateful that you did, and that you also took the time for yourself then, when you wrote this book, and which required you to, go back there, and that you took the time for yourself there too. Now, there's a metaphor you use, which is in the title, the boiling frog. And
yeah.
I know because I've read the book, but I was wondering if you can share with the listeners a bit, because I definitely recommend they go and grab the book, and I'll leave details how to get that in the show notes. But like, yeah, just a little bit of a brief about the boiling frog metaphor, and what you mean by that and how you use it. Yeah, in this.
Yeah, so I think it may have actually come from my mum initially, like most of my like little bits of wisdom,
As my
over the
my
years.
elders too,
Yeah.
and from your mum.
Um, yeah, thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
Um, it's that gradual kind of thing. If we actually look at if we were to put a frog in a pot of boiling water, it's going to
Hmm.
go holy and jump out.
Yeah, 100%.
If we put a pot in a pot of cool water and we just slowly
Mm,
turn up the heat, it doesn't see it coming. It's that
mm,
gradual kind of thing, that feeling safe. And sometimes part of
mm.
that feeling safe can be the love bombing and the
Yeah.
you're up on a pedestal, you're the center of attention, and
Hmm.
they couldn't possibly hurt me because I'm their princess, I'm their everything. And
Mm,
that can sort of go on for weeks or
mm,
months. Um,
mm.
in some cases, I've heard people that have said that that's been for years, that
Wow.
this process of just slowly chipping away and eroding
Mm,
your sense of self-worth. And it
mm-hmm,
can be with the slightest little hints of,
mm,
oh, what'd you do that for?
mm,
Kind of thing. And yeah, so it's just sort of something that,
mm.
because it's so gradual,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that's sort of why I
It's
talk
not.
about, I guess, the victim shaming and the self-blaming
Mm,
and all of that kind of stuff comes
mm,
from, and especially when
mm,
everybody else sees Prince Charming as well.
mm, mm-hmm, mm.
Even you see Prince Charming in the beginning.
Yeah. I remember like with vicarious experience.
Maybe it should be a toad in the
Yeah.
pot.
But like no, I just from I won't name names, but certainly was but I saw Prince Charming of this partner of someone, and I didn't see that side, didn't know, and didn't know from yeah, this person what was going on until after, till later. But 100% Prince Charming, thought
Mm,
he was the bee's knees, like just absolutely fantastic. We all do, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the Prince Charming. But yeah, but even yeah, those things that you said, that's why this boiling frog metaphor really uh gives that visual and picture of what it's like from the inside as well. You don't see it coming. And as you said, that a lot of that shaming and stigmatization, why didn't you leave, or
Mm,
why didn't you, like all that kind of stuff, they don't get that it's, they don't get this whole what that's like, and it's always, I got the sense too when you mentioned like there'll be just this little slight or something, almost like there's that thing, um, like slight wounds every time, but they mount up, and so that toad,
mm.
I've already swapped that toad in the water. okay, it's just a little bit warmer. It's just a little bit warmer. But when you're in that too, you're not even noticing that it's
And it's
warmer. But
this
those are those
romantic
wounds.
whirlwind as well. So like you're
The
being,
pot's awesome.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
being swept off your feet, and it's,
Yeah.
it's such a, like I remember having poetry written for me.
Wow. Okay. Uh-huh.
And the regular phone calls and the I
Mm,
love you within, like, I think second date was when I love you
mm,
came out.
mm-hmm.
um
And this is that love bombing. Yeah. Is that
yeah,
when you
that,
said
oh,
love
you'd make
bombing?
such
Just
a wonderful mother, and
mm,
that was probably a month or so in.
mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I was just wondering, one of the things like with understanding abuse, like, and you share in the book. Like there's different types. I know we're getting better, I think, as a society in understanding, especially here in Australia with recent, coercive control, pushes for laws around that. But we often, I know in the era I grew up in, I mean, no one ever talked about it, but I suppose physical abuse was something that there was awareness around. But there's so many different types of abuses. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that to bring that awareness to our audience. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's probably where a lot of that whole "I didn't have it so bad"
Yeah.
mentality came from as well. I think in 16 years, a couple of times he hit me.
Mm, mhm,
And it wasn't, beaten black and blue, so I wasn't one of those battered women kind
mhm.
of things. Um,
Yeah.
but like little things, like I remember a time when the police were actually called to
Mm,
something, and as like police, what they do when it's a DV related call out, they'll
mm,
take each person individually. And I
mhm,
remember, chatting to the officer that I was talking to. And the other officer came back in and said, so, so and so said that you did that, 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 that.
mhm.
And both of the officers just kind of looked at each other, and he'd basically told them I did to him everything that he'd just done to me.
Okay.
So police
Shit.
then leave going, well, you're as bad as each other, and because they can't tell who
Mm,
did what. Or there was
mm,
another one that he'd actually used part of my body to hit himself with. So I actually had like a bruise on my knee, and he had a bruise on his face, or a mark by the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And they did the separate and chat again. And then the other officer came back to me and said, you're lucky he doesn't want to press charges. And I didn't do
Mm, no.
anything. But how do I prove?
Yeah.
So, like, even
Yeah.
those sorts of things that, like, when
Mm-hmm.
it came to, I guess, custody kind of related stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
lawyers were going through old police records, my
Mm,
lawyers come back and gone, we've got nothing. Like, all of our
mm-hmm.
um, police records sort of show that you were as bad as each other in their eyes. So there was no evidence of a pattern of one-sided
Mm, mm.
abuse, which made, things really tricky. No one wanted to believe what I'd
Yeah.
been through.
Yeah.
I think I had a handful of people
Mm,
who did, but
yeah.
it
But
was, yeah, just
mm.
crazy.
But it's that, yeah, I suppose, and we'll come to that a little bit more if you're willing, like those systemic when, trying to get help or when, police get called on you and then, especially back then, but even today,
Mm.
but yeah, that proof, and it sounds like one of the patterns of abusers is to become the victim or to, to
It's
portray themselves as a
definitely, I mean, I'm
victim.
not like, it's not that that
No, but
happens
that's
to
your
me in every
experience.
scenario, but it is
Yeah.
definitely
Mm.
it's a recurring pattern that I see in other
Yeah.
stories as
Yeah.
well.
So not an uncommon characteristic of a abuser. Yeah. And this whole like you're on your own, you can't see it. Like with physical abuse, and just hearing your story there, like how he then used your body to, yeah, create bruises for him. But like there, okay, some sort of physical evidence, but a lot of other things. Like one of the things that I actually didn't know till working as a psychologist and certainly becoming more acquainted and understanding about domestic abuse is the financial. There's financial abuse. I mean, I was definitely
Mm.
getting to learn and understand before psych about psychological abuse, and even that, I don't know if you call it social abuse, but that isolation, and I suppose it's
Yeah.
under that psychological. But financial abuse was one, yeah. Like I just all these, and I know these are really, difficult topics too. So as much as you want to go
Yeah.
into them, either personally or just
Mm.
well, you know so many people's
Yeah.
stories, but
Well, I mean, I
all
had
the,
like, yeah, there was
mm,
a $5 hair dye
yeah.
became an issue one time. Like,
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
because I was quite a young mum,
mm,
wanted to fit in with the other mums up at the school, and they're all off going and getting, $100 hairdresser visits and getting their
mhm,
hair cut
mm.
and coloured and this and like, we
Yeah.
weren't particularly flush, so I'd go and buy a $5 box of hair dye from the
Mm,
supermarket.
mm,
And it's like that became an issue. And then,
mm,
who are you dressing yourself up for? Why are you putting makeup on? Who are you trying to impress?
mm, mm.
Um, so
Yeah.
I guess that's a little bit of the financial and the social aspect
Yeah.
of it as well in that one, because it
Mm,
was, I don't want you to
mm,
be appealing to other people. If I
mm,
got dressed up, I got called all sorts of names if we were going out in public, and he was embarrassed to be seen with me.
mhm,
And
mm.
it was almost like, he wanted me to dress a certain way at home and then a certain way in public,
Okay.
because the public persona he wanted to portray was this happy, wholesome
Mhm.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I want to pause here and offer something deeply personal for anyone feeling depleted or stuck in stress, overwhelm, or burnout. My book, Nothing Left to Give, A Psychologist's Path Back from Burnout, shares my real life story of hitting a wall in 2021. Burnout, compassion fatigue, and resurging mental health struggles that forced me to leave my work and rebuild from the ground up. It's not just a memoir, it's filled with practical tools and reflections to guide you towards rest, reclaim your sense of self, and resist that pressure of constant caring going outwards, perfectionism, people pleasing, toxic independence, all of that. You can find this book both in ebook and paperback via Amazon, or just head to the show notes for the link, or shannonaswales.com/burnout-book for the links. And now let's get back to the episode. I know you're already starting to speak to those patterns of behavior that your oh, the abuser tends to display,
Mm.
I was, if you're okay to go there, because one of the things you mentioned, even intelligent women, and I've heard that a lot too, like, I'm so intelligent, how did I not see it? Or, and we don't see it because no one's taught us, haven't they? And or
Yeah.
people haven't been able to speak out, and share, and this is why I admire you so much for sharing your story, because, so all women, regardless of intellect or whatever, that they're armed,
Mm.
so to say, with some of these, signs or patterns that we notice in a person where
Yeah.
with, yeah, yeah. What would you like to share there? I was just, yeah,
I think,
curious.
yeah, it is hard because a lot of when I was
Mm,
first, fell in love and thought everything was rosy,
mm,
I didn't know what love bombing
yeah.
was. That being one of the
Yeah.
it's talked about as being such a red flag these days, and it's all over social media. People talk about it, but I didn't even know
Mm.
that it was a thing.
Yeah. And
I
can
just
I, yeah, no.
I just thought, wow, he thinks I'm that special and he's in
Mm.
love with me. And it was,
Mm.
I didn't know, I guess, any different with that.
Mm.
The, I guess, like even later on, sort of different patterns and
Mm.
stuff, like,
Mm.
there's that gradual form of control. Like I talked about,
Mm.
there's certain, being a certain way at home and a certain way in public.
Yeah.
And there'd be shame used to
Hmm.
try and
Yeah.
control that aspect.
Yeah.
Um, I think where things tended to get more heated at different times, and I'm laughing at my own pattern, not the actual what happened, because
Okay.
I'm a very headstrong person, and
Mm.
there was a few times during our relationship where I would just go, "Mm, I'm doing it
Hmm.
anyway."
Yeah.
Didn't always end very well, but
Mm.
I was so, and I think that's, understanding my personality a little
That's
bit more, and I'm
mm.
not very good at being told what to do or
Mm. Hmm.
I'm not good at telling myself what to do, let alone someone else telling me what to do.
Yeah,
So
I got you.
it
Mm.
was having someone sit there and go,
Mm.
well, I forbid you to, be friends with this person.
Mm.
And it'd be like, well, stop me.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, Eventually you get wound down, lack of a better word.
Worn down. You said it
Worn
earlier, I
down,
think,
yeah.
too. Like there was something you said earlier anyway, but yeah, worn down. Like it, oh, I think you were talking about that sense of self-worth, like they wear you down. And so that's I was just with that language. But yeah, this
Yeah.
your personality is to, yeah, that
Mm.
defiance, like and I feel you, I'm that way. And now more so than what I was in the past. But I
Well,
think
when
but
it
yeah.
turned, because there was a friend that I had that he was like, no, I don't want you going out with single women because single women are going out to pick up.
Mm.
And I was like, well, you either trust me or you don't.
Hmm.
And, I went out a couple of times and I guess he had to rethink, how do I control this situation? So the next time that the topic of going out with this person
Mm.
came up, he told me that she'd tried to get
Oh, mm,
intimate with him.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
no, you can't, she has to be completely off limits now. She's forbidden from being in our lives because
Hmm.
how could you accept someone doing
Hmm. I
that?
see the
So,
tactics
all the
there.
different, if one thing doesn't work, there's,
Yeah,
yeah, different workarounds.
I got you.
And I think
Yeah.
initially I just saw him as a desperate sort of person and all of this kind of thing. And even, I guess, when you talk about like patterns and that, like
Hmm.
cycles is sort of one of
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Okay.
And like the Jekyll and Hyde kind of
Mhm.
is how I kind of always saw it and explained it.
Hmm.
And I honestly, for a long time, believed that that he was triggered into the rage or
Yeah. Mm.
and that's where, a lot of people who are in these relationships then start blaming themselves because they're like, well, maybe if
Mm.
I just did so and so, if I did this or I did that, maybe, but
Mm.
you start walking on eggshells.
I hear you. Mhm.
But the thing to sort of, I guess, notice, and it's something that it took me a long time to see, and I'd watched a lot of different podcasts and listened to a lot of
Yeah.
different people as well, is if you notice the times they're actually capable of just switching from being
Mm.
aggressive and angry and all of that to then you go into a different environment where that behavior is not acceptable,
Mm.
they can just switch it off.
Hmm. Regardless
Like,
of the triggers.
yeah, like
Like, yeah.
you'd be going bananas at me, like in the car or something. We'd turn up to where we're at. I'd be bawling my eyes out, and he'd just be like, what are you doing?
Switch.
Let's get out of the car. Let's go in. And I'd be like, but I can't. Like, I'm a mess.
Yeah.
He's like, pull yourself together and rah. And I'm like, those were sort of the little things to look back on and realize he had full
Mm.
control of those
I hear you.
moments in that cycle
Mm.
to maintain that, and then he had to go back, then you'd go back into the love bombing
Hmm.
and the kindness and the flowers and
Hmm.
all of that. And just long enough till you feel comfortable again. And then it would.
Hmm. Then I'd go
It's
back. One of the things you talked about in the book, and this was quite, and we've talked about in our chats as well, is that survival while in the relationship as well, and things that you do to survive that Jekyll and Hyde, yeah, persona, the abuse. And I thought it was really interesting and brave again. I mean, everything's very brave, but just even to share about that, because I think that was a section for me, or section sounds, that was a part of the abuse story I had never heard or heard spoken about yet, or maybe I
Mm.
didn't pay attention. But that was just really, yeah, like, and it made sense. Like, well, you're often in there for years. It's not easy, and we'll talk about that to leave and all of that, like what you do to survive, and that part of the story, because that can be really hard to sit with as well. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that part, which, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, the person you become
Mm,
when you're in that kind of situation, I guess, is
mm.
like a bit of hardening, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
Um, I I remember looking back on, stories that I'd tell and just go, that was like not me.
mm, mhm,
Like I remember getting upset with someone because they weren't listening
mm,
to me because, I'd probably told them 50 times before, he's
mm,
done this again and rah, rah, and they were like, I don't have time for this anymore. And
mm.
I remember throwing a phone through the window.
Yeah. Mm.
I overdosed on medication that I was on. Um,
Ah,
I needed it to smack it and I was asleep, couldn't feel it.
yeah,
Um, Something that I'm really not proud of is that I actually did cheat on him.
yeah.
Um,
Mm,
and I'm, my whole personality, my whole persona is
mm,
this faith and trust and
mm,
that inner relationship.
mm,
But at a time when I was heavily medicated,
mm.
um, in part thanks to him, but that's another story as well.
Okay. Ah,
Um, I needed to feel something other than
mm,
that cycle of what I was going through.
mm,
And it was empty and it was like, what did I do that for? And all of the
mm,
guilt and emotions and stuff come up after that. But
mm,
the places that you go when
mm.
you're emotionally numb because
Yeah.
you kind of need to turn off some of those
Mm,
emotions.
mm,
Like he'd come home from work, I'd be upset, child on the floor, and
mm.
I was upset because I was numb and I couldn't feel or find the motivation to get down on the floor and play with my child.
Oh, yeah.
And his response was like, well, what the F have you done all day? And like, why isn't dinner
Mm,
ready? And get over it. And
mm.
it was, I just needed that. I needed some compassion in that time. Like,
Yeah,
there was like a combination of postnatal depression because of situation, so
yeah.
many different things. And
Mm,
like I mentioned, the overdose.
yeah.
I went to the doctors after that and it was recommended just to go off all medication.
Mm,
You don't need to wean yourself off. Your body will naturally do that because of how much you know.
okay.
Um, and I remember going home and telling him that and said, the doctor just said I need someone to talk to. I don't
Mm,
need medication. I need someone to talk to.
mm,
He went to child protection and told them that I'd gone off my meds and that he wanted me psych assessed because I should be on my medication.
mm-hmm.
Well, I went off due to like with
Met
medical advice. Like,
advice.
I didn't
Hmm.
just decide out of the blue to go off my
Yeah.
medication. I did do that the right way with
No.
advice. And I got psych assessed
Oh, they went
because
through
of
it.
his report. Um, Thankfully, the
Hmm.
psychiatrist backed me up and actually did a report saying that I don't need
Okay.
medication, that I need someone to talk to.
Hmm.
That may have been a little bit of a window into like giving me a little bit of clarity
Okay.
at that time
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Um, there was still a few years after that, but it was
Mm.
it was just a little, I guess, seed planted into
Yeah.
this.
Almost like I feel a bit bold, well, I don't know, bold, but like a system or part of the system, maybe seeing something, like seeing that, this, I'm not seeing everything, obviously, but seeing that you needed someone to talk to. And often I see that code as, yeah, a compassionate other, a person who's willing to sit with, really hear what you're struggling with, what you're going through. Yeah, like that kind of person, and both your doctor and the psychiatrist at the time both could see that in their assessment of you. And I suppose a helpful seed in that process, because it's not always that with a system. You talk about in the book, and I've heard this in hearing stories of domestic abuse and leaving, that leaving part. And there's a phrase, I think, in your book that, that thought or planning to leave starts way before you actually leave. And that other component, just to chuck another thing in there, is that and I think we know as a society, or if we don't, I'm going to stress this, is leaving is often the most dangerous thing or dangerous time, I should say, not dangerous time for the woman and the children. It's the most dangerous time. So this whole, should have left stigma that we have out there, it's, really, it is the most dangerous time. But I was just wondering if you could share what you'd like to share about that process for you that, yeah, leaving happened way before I left, or before I left, and that
Yeah.
it's not an easy time. It's a dangerous time. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I actually moved out on more than one occasion.
Okay. Yeah.
I stayed in a refuge for a couple of months one time.
Hmm.
There was another time that I actually got my own house through government housing.
Hmm.
Um, but each time it was somehow, and I don't know, like partly through actions that he took and partly systemic, it
Mm.
was easier to go back than it was to try and continue on my own.
Yeah.
Um, I remember working out because I wasn't driving at the time. I hadn't got my license yet when I moved into the house on my own. And
Hmm.
remember going for a job interview. I had someone lined up and looked after the kids. And I went to a job interview, got the job, and was all excited. And then I couldn't work out the buses and childcare, and I had to
Mm.
turn down the job because I
Wow.
would have had to have caught a bus to get them to childcare, then wait another hour for another bus to get to work.
Mm.
And then by the time I got home or back to the
Mm.
childcare, it would have been closed. And it was so disheartening because I'm like, how do
Yeah.
I get a job? How do I get a car? How do I maintain my independence?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that lack of support, and that's that real world support, not
Yeah.
just, oh, we're here for you.
Yeah, no, real world, like,
Yeah,
available childcare at hours that you need, financial support to be able to, yeah, buy, like, or to be able to get all those things. Just
mm,
your experience there that you share with us really highlights the systemic barriers for a woman and her children to be able to leave safely, to have that independence
yeah.
and yeah,
I think it was after I
and why.
went back that last time
Hmm.
was when I was determined to get my license,
Okay.
find employment.
Hmm.
And I had about 3 or 4 jobs before I landed on one that was secure enough
Hmm.
to then be able to
Mm.
buy my own car because I was borrowing my father-in-law's car.
Hmm.
Um, and once I sort of had those things in place was when I felt,
Mm.
because they were the barriers to me staying away the first time, was
Okay.
that ability to have that level of independence that I could maintain.
Mm. Mm.
Needed to be able to maintain, yeah, housing, a job, a
Yeah.
car, just the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. But the basics that a lot of us, including myself, take for granted. I mean, I hear constantly of, my female friends who've got kids in childcare, even single mums, but not in, but like just struggling to make it all work. But they can because they've got transport, they've got finance, they've got a job, they've got these things. They've got, with childcare, they've got some government assistance with the cost of it, which all
Yeah,
helps systemically for them, for especially single mums and things like that as well. But like, don't have this when you're leaving a controlling, abusive relationship. And these are the things you're letting us know can make a person return, because yeah, um, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And why we need more systemic help for families, for women fleeing, yeah, or leaving. Yeah. Um, sorry, I feel like I might have cut off more of that story too, that process of leaving and yeah, what that was like for you.
um, I don't know if it was cut off or I don't know.
I always feel like, is there
Okay.
more? Like, no, but like, I
Mm,
remember, I think in the book, I remember, that whole, yeah, getting your license, because that all occurred while you were there, still living with him, right? Yeah, and getting that, but that was the piece of the pie that really helped. But I just don't think I knew that depth of how many times, and that is a story I
mm,
hear a lot too. Like it's not, it's just one go and that's it. It's often several
yeah.
attempts to leave. Yeah, so
I mean,
hearing
like
that.
even the last time that I left, and it was
Mm,
because I knew in my heart that last time it had to be, like, it just had to
mm,
be it. Like I had to be
yeah.
out for good that time. And things like previously when I'd had your each state calls them something different, but like your
Okay.
intervention order, your domestic violence
Oh
restraining
yeah.
order thing.
Mhm.
Um, I hadn't previously pursued breaches
Okay.
of them. And this time it was like I did.
Okay.
And they were initially a couple of smaller, they were still decent, but they were smaller
Oh,
level sort
mhm.
of breaches. And
But
I remember, turning up at the police station and they're like, like they, a bit dismissive kind of thing until I
mm,
actually played one of the voicemails or something, and then they took it a bit more serious. But
yeah, God.
those kind of things, I think, were just, I had to send that message. It wasn't about him getting him in trouble per se, as
Mm,
much as it was saying, this is in place to protect me and I'm going to be taking it seriously.
mhm,
And it was kind of like letting him, excuse me,
mhm,
letting him know if he steps out of line, I will
mm.
use that order
Yeah,
to
yeah.
let him know. And
Mhm,
the final one that stopped him was he actually rang my mother
mhm,
on time and actually threatened something quite serious.
mhm,
And I'd already told my mum about an app that I had on my phone that could record phone calls.
mhm,
So she had that app. And I remember when she rang me, and we were actually both excited because it was like finally something serious that he's got caught for, that maybe this will be the last thing because he's going to get in enough trouble to deter
mm,
anything else.
mm,
And, his mum and I doing the happy dancing, and, we finally got him. And like,
mhm.
and then, half hour or so later, mum rings back and goes,
Yeah.
just maybe we should be careful in case that threat was serious. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
yeah.
But this,
Like,
but this is how powerful that I'm getting that sense and that depth of how where your head was at, where that protection, and this is something else that because
mm,
like with the laws and stuff like that, this is something finally I can get, some more protection around that he will hear that, yeah, that other part of
mm,
you, that survival from the threat, I can, because the survival was protection. And I was like, oh no, I also need to protect from this current threat. But yeah, I
yeah.
can see that. I can see that. But I'm
Yeah. I
glad.
remember
Yeah.
getting phone calls from my son after that because my son actually stayed back with him,
Mm,
and not by my choice,
no.
but I remember getting the phone calls from my son doing the stop calling the cops on dad. Dad's done nothing wrong.
Mm,
And I'm like,
mm.
I can't tell a 12-year-old boy, it was either 12 or 13 at the time, but
Yeah.
I can't tell a 12-year-old
Mm,
boy what actually,
mm,
why the police were called. And I remember just sitting there, and
mm.
the first thing I could think of was, I'm really sorry that you're feeling like this. This is really big and really hard, and I love you.
That's what you said. Oh wow. What a beautiful. Because
And
I'm like, what would you say? What do you do? That's so beautiful.
I couldn't
Yeah.
say anything else
No,
except
yeah.
to reaffirm like how.
That you love him and that
And I
this is
remember just
tough.
getting off the phone and just like collapsing because it's just like he
Mhm.
wouldn't have given the same. And it's not even to give him like the ex the grace.
Mm.
That was for my son.
Yes, I heard that. I felt that. Like that was for him. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was, I couldn't
Mm.
give a rat's if like they found out things that he'd done
Mm.
because I mean, I do because I don't want my kids to
Mm.
feel negative about either of their parents, but that would be on him at least. Then it wasn't
Yeah,
me
true.
stooping to that level of
Mm. He's the one
putting
who
that
act
onto a
he
child.
yeah,
They
he
were
chose
adult
to.
problems.
Yeah. Yeah, geez. And so I'm just going to pause here for a moment to share something with you. If you've been listening and thinking, I wish I had a space where I could talk about this with people who truly get it, that's exactly why I created the Midlife Reclaimed community. It's a gentle, real, and supportive space for women navigating midlife. Whether you're facing chronic stress, overwhelm, burnout, or simply wanting to reconnect with yourself. We meet for live, weekly support circles, share reflective prompts, and learn together so you can feel seen, heard, and supported as you reclaim what matters most. You don't have to figure it all out alone. Visit shannonaswales.com/midlife reclaimed community to join us. Now let's get back to the episode. And something that you share as well, and I think it might have been more in our chats, but I think it's such an important part that even when you leave, and there is, because I know even when you leave, it's not complete, like you're not even completely physically safe from person, but even if or when you are, that
Mm.
the you don't feel that safety inside internally, like the body, the mind, the soul, still feel that sense of unsafe. I was wondering if you
Yeah.
could share a bit about that experience for you. Yeah. So that's so important. It's, yeah.
Um, yeah,
Mm,
like from a physical sense, I guess at some point I didn't feel that physical threat
mhm,
anymore. But I remember getting into the relationship with my partner now,
mm,
and
mm,
I remember little things that he would do that I would actually have to question, is this normal?
mm,
Not that I
mm.
don't like that word, but is this,
I know what I mean. Like
typical?
you didn't know what was, yeah, typical might be
Yeah,
like,
is
because,
this typical male behavior,
yeah,
or is this a flag that I should be seeing?
yeah, I hear what you mean. Yeah, you're trying to
It's
navigate
been
again.
some of the same things that they would do, but it was just
Ah,
typical male kind of
mm,
behavior. But I didn't know how to tell the difference. I'd met my ex when I was 18,
mhm.
and being with him for 16 years, that was nearly half of my life.
Yeah. Mhm,
It was my entire adult life until
mm,
that stage.
mm,
And it was just that constant, I don't know how I got so lucky
mm,
with who I've got. Um,
mm,
the patience
mm,
and compassion that he's had is just phenomenal. Like
mm.
I would be acting out and I would be reacting as if he was a threat.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would, I guess, my nervous system would wind down and I'd relax
Yeah.
and I'd be, oh, like, I'm so sorry. And I'd sort
Yeah.
of, and he just
Yeah.
kept coming back and he just
Mm,
kept supporting me and kept saying, I know that you've been through a lot. And
mm,
it was like between
mm,
him and having my mum
mm.
around is what got me through.
Yeah. Well, it made me think of when you went to the doctor after taking that overdose on your meds and
Mm,
then saying she needs support, you need support. Sorry, that's what you need. And a
yeah.
psychiatrist saying, like, and I mean, that was when you were in the thick of it and of the abuse and being controlled and all that. But this, being out from it, that took, your strength and courage and everything you did there. But then, and I know you've said your mum's always been there too. But those are your compassionate others, the people
Mm,
who supported you even when your body's still adjusting, you're still adjusting to, well, what is normal in a relationship or typical, yeah, like, or, but like having that kind of support that's very patient, understanding of that traumatic response, because that's what that is. And
mm,
I'm just so grateful that, and especially a male, especially a man in an intimate relationship to have that when having come from an abusive relationship. I think that's so
mm.
important. I know how important it is just on a very minor level, like not going through what you did traumatic, to have someone so patient or even patient for your own stuff, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Oh, like that is so important for someone who survived trauma. Like, yeah, and I think
Mm.
you said, and I wrote it down, I have to turn it to because I'm going to not do it justice, but you wrote, love didn't heal you, but it gave you the space to heal yourself. I was like, oh my God, that is so powerful. And it just with you sharing
Mm,
this and the support that you receive, particularly from your partner, yeah, that loved in, because some people would think that, right? And we got brought up in the
mm.
era, and I say we because I think we're both in our, yeah, like same age, but we got brought up in that era of, fairy tales of meet your Prince Charming and all that, yeah, did not serve us well. at all. But you
Yeah.
know that love will heal all things. You get a kiss from a Prince Charming, everything's great. No,
Hmm.
no, I loved that you said no, but it gave you the space to heal, you know, and heal yourself. Ah, I was like, that's the stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
I've taken your words, but anything you wanted to share to that? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a special place to be in, and I think I I'm like eternally grateful for,
Mm,
everything that he was able to, I guess continues to, because I still
mm.
have moments
Yeah,
where I,
yeah,
have different emotions that come up and different things that
mm,
happen, and
yeah, yeah.
where, working through triggers and working through trauma,
Hmm.
it's not like you can go to a few
Hmm.
therapy sessions or you go through a couple of little meditations or whatever your healing modality
Yeah.
choice is, and oh, I'm back to this pre-trauma
Mm, mm,
version of myself
mm, mm,
where completely different human beings for that
mm.
experience.
Yeah.
We're different if we don't go through high
Hmm.
levels of trauma. We grow and we evolve, and I I guess through years of doing different, like I've done a lot of, woo-woo considered sort of like different modalities
Mm,
healing. I've done Reiki, so I'm a Reiki master healer.
mm, mm.
I've done currently studying, debating on whether or not to continue spinal flow technique, which is
Oh,
it's an absolutely
yeah.
beautiful modality. I'm just not sure if I'll be using it, but maybe I can just still do it and have
Mm,
it as um but I love, the meditating. I've done some
mm,
coaching
mm.
training as well to do coaching NLP,
Yes.
and
Neuro linguistic program, just in case. I mean, it's quite
yes,
known out there, but I just thought I'd neuro linguistic programming, NLP. Yeah. It's for the
yes, yeah,
listeners, in
there
case they
are
don't
people
know.
that don't have a clue what that is. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yes,
And
yes. That's why I
yeah,
thought
if you're
I'd
not
throw that
in
out
that
there.
space, I guess how would
Yeah.
you know?
No, of course.
But I know like the NLP was very much, it taught me to be very focused in on the language
Mm,
that I use and the stories that I tell myself. And
mm, mhm,
we kind of do create our
mm,
lives.
mm,
And I, I want to be mindful, I guess, and sort of that's not to say that, when you're in a toxic environment that that's your fault.
mm, mm,
But our programming from childhood and through our adolescence and all
mm,
of the what we consume
mm,
does impact where we
mm,
go. So just little belief systems. Like I remember back to
mm,
little things that happened when I was a child that were seemingly insignificant
mm.
that changed how I thought about different things.
Hmm. Hmm. We're very much shaped by our beginnings in a lot of ways. Yeah. And it
Mm.
so sounds like therapy or the things that you've done to help support yourself and be able to work through. Yeah, there's, so many things, including NLP, that really helped. Well, Kim, yeah, like we were saying, there's that process of healing, the trauma,
Mm.
once you're left and you're physically safe enough, there is that process and how your supports have really, compassionate supports have really helped along that way, but also what you've done to
Mm.
heal yourself as well and continue to
Yeah.
do. Like, because like you said, it's not like, you flip a switch and it's gone. It's there and it's how you meet that and how you work through that. And
Yeah.
I think you were starting to say or talk about some of the things that you're now doing as well. It sounds like what you've been through. I mean, what you've done is also become an author and publish this book, but almost like that sense of, and I'm not sure if you said this to me or maybe it's just a quote that, or a phrase that sits, but that pain into purpose. You know, the pain is there. It's not like wipes away just because we found meaning in or purpose, but sounds like it's
Mm,
really drawn you to areas of your life, including the writing the book, but also Reiki, I think
yeah.
you mentioned. There's lots of things that you're doing in your life. I was
I
going to
just
ask about that.
do it without sounding salesy and like I'm trying to plug another.
Well, I've done
I've
enough. Like, go for it. Go for it
Yeah,
because
like
it's a
I've
good
just
book.
done it's actually more of a workbook than anything else that I've put onto Etsy that's called
Yeah.
Capacity for Connection, which
Oh,
is kind of around parenting, and I can send you the link if you
please
like.
do. No, please do. I'll include it in the show notes. And I think I saw it on your and I'll put this to your social media page, you know, your business, your work, because I saw it up there, but I haven't investigated yet. So yeah, tell us about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
What you're
it's
doing.
I guess the whole gist of it is that there's a saying that everyone, throws around that when you know better, you do better,
Mm,
which
mm.
without a bit of nuance in there can be very much, oh, but if I know better and I'm not doing better,
Ah,
does that mean there's something wrong with me? Or so
mm.
the capacity aspect is what I explore in the book. And
Ah,
it's around parenting mostly, but it can be applied to any
mm,
relationship really. But to be able to show up for people
mm,
in a connected way, you
mm,
need to have capacity for that. Like your nervous
mm,
system needs to not be in fight or flight mode.
mm.
And that
Yeah.
can sometimes be easier said than done. So I've sort of put some little
Mm,
activities and things in that are aimed for those little moments of reflection rather than the heavy work.
mm, mm-hmm,
Because because the book, I guess, is aimed at overwhelmed parents,
mm-hmm,
majority mostly,
mm-hmm.
majoritively. That's not even
I
a
got
word.
it. We
Um,
make up words on this pod anyway. Well, I do.
Beautiful,
And
perfect. I'll fit
everyone's
right
welcomed.
in.
I see it as just
Um,
language is evolving, right? It's evolving.
exactly. What's one of my favorite words is sparkly.
Oh,
Instead
space
of,
and sparkly together? No, was it
well, just, yeah, sparkly because it's sparkly and
sparsk?
pretty, and
Love it.
I just
Sparkly.
like it.
I got a sense of space in it, like lots of spark. Anyway, yeah, I like
Oh, lots of sparkles. Yeah, that works.
it. So yeah, and you
Hmm.
know what? I was just as you were talking about that this can be really helpful in lots of areas, not just parenting. It made me think of like with burnout and lots of overwhelmed. I work specifically more in midlife now with women. And that overwhelmed, but we're often talking about capacity because often they're saying,
Hmm.
well, I can do it. Like a lot of these women have, you know, the skills, the intelligence, the whatever, like, but they don't have the capacity because their nervous system is so overwhelmed
Hmm.
with all the emotional and
And
mental load. So anyway,
and
yeah,
being able to give yourself grace to be able to go, I actually had a really big week, so I don't have the capacity today.
yeah, compassion, self, yeah.
Yeah, that,
Mm,
capacity is a fluctuating state
mm,
of being. Like we
yep.
don't have just this unending amount of capacity
Mm,
to do everything that we want to do. I don't know where I wrote it or where I got it or what, but
mm.
I remember growing up and it's, you can do anything that you want. You just can't do everything.
Yeah. And that was the very important part that I and a lot of people didn't receive. You
Yeah, I
just
missed
can't do
that one as
everything.
well.
Yeah, it was like, and which was beautiful that I really have so much gratitude for women, women before me who really helped, you know, that women can do more things today than what they could do, you know, 30, 40 years ago in terms of,
Mm.
yeah, you know, work,
We've
life,
got more
finance, independence.
options. It doesn't mean we have to do it all.
Yeah, but that's it, you know, that's saying we got like as Gen Xers,
Mm.
like you can do it all And what we're seeing, a lot of burnout in Gen X women is a result of that. Like
Yeah.
they've been given that lie. We didn't know it was a lie, or I don't think people knew it was that who was saying it. It was just, it's because capacity, coming back to where your work or part of where your work is going, or just your life, driving in that direction and what you're giving to the world. Yeah, that is a real, yeah, passion thing for you, interest, and
Mm.
helping parents, with that connection to capacity to help in that domain of their life. Yeah,
Yeah.
parenting.
And I mean, I think having an autistic child as well
Mhm.
is the trying to find the capacity sometimes when there's lack of
Mhm.
sleep or there's
Mhm.
meltdowns, there's the emotional load that it can
Yeah.
have if we're not very careful to somehow find self, as you
Mm.
said, self-compassion and the ability to breathe.
Yeah. But this is what this offering you have gives is, well, just that awareness and building that, but also
Mm,
some activities and strategies and things to build that capacity, or even just to bring that really beautiful compassion acceptance that it's okay if you're finding it hard, like who
mm.
who wouldn't, like, it's okay. Well, I mean, it's not fun, but it's okay. Like I hear that in what you're sharing too. And so it really does sound like where you are now, and I'm sure there's so much more that that you've been doing, but it's really bringing your wisdom that you have and putting out there that you're really in that helping profession, like, or, giving, the giving out words to others. Even the book, like you said
Mm.
earlier, you did that for yourself, but it was also for others. And I think everything that or not everything, often a lot of the things that we choose to do, especially I feel in midlife and beyond, it might be for others, but it's often connected to who we are as well, and that
Yeah.
to give and care for others. You come from a
I
place
think
of
in
knowing
being
that.
in a caring role, whether it be psychology or Reiki or like,
Mm. Yeah, whatever.
it's so often the it's kind of like, the mechanic who doesn't look after his own car. We need to
I like that. A mechanic who doesn't look after their own car. 100%. It will conk out on
Mm.
the street in
And
the
if
middle of
we're
peak hour
not
traffic.
sitting with that
Mm,
whole, all right, I just learning how to say
mm,
no. And
mm,
I think I put that in that book was I've given some examples. Everyone says, oh, but no is a full sentence. So I'm like, well, it's not to me.
mm,
It doesn't sit with my nervous system. And
mhm,
if you're wanting to grow capacity, you need to be working with your nervous system, not against it. So having
mhm,
phrases like, I'm not up to doing that today. Thank you for
mhm,
thinking of me, but I can't make it this time.
mm,
Having
mm,
those gentle ways of being able to say no that are still aligned and
with who you are. Mm,
yeah,
I hear you. Like it's that, yeah, no is a full sentence. Well, for some people, that will feel right for them to
yeah.
just say
And that's
no and full
okay if
stop.
that feels,
Yeah, but tailor it to suit your personal needs. I like that because yeah, I'm not one to. Oh, I think, used no and just used the full stop, but I think maybe once or twice, but and that's with people that it might be for like I'm just thinking of like people who are trying to sell me something or try and sell a service, but I always put no, thank you. I
yeah,
just
I
don't.
can't. It's
No,
there's
thank
still the
you.
no
So it's
thank
not a full
you.
sentence. Yeah, that's true. I actually, yeah, it's not a full sentence, but I don't. I used to think I had to explain further. I would for a close friend or a person, a
Yeah.
colleague I'm working with, of course, clients, or so sorry, I won't be able to make the session today because my child's unwell or whatever that might be. Like
Mm,
whatever I'm willing to share and is okay in that forum.
yeah.
Because I think that's, yeah, anyway, being true to yourself, yeah, is important. It's, that, like you said, if we don't look after it, it's like a mechanic not looking after their own car. And I think that part of being true to yourself is part of that looking after ourselves because we're aligned with our value system, aligned with our sense of self, and that helps our nervous system.
Yeah.
She feels better when we're more aligned with ourselves, right? I see that constantly in practice. The disconnection from self can create a lot of that nervous system distress as well, not just the workload or the emotional and mental load and the lack of resources, or being in, like I not deal a lot with, but some really not so great work situations in terms of the leaders, the people or colleagues sometimes. So yeah, anyway, like that true to self is so important. But yeah, Kim, it's been so wonderful having you today and speaking on something, not something, on domestic abuse and your personal experience. And I know I'm speaking, I'd imagine, for everyone who's tuning in or watching, that thank you so very much for not only showing up here today and sharing this, but, for writing your book as well, so that other people can have hope, because hope's part of it too. Like you said, I think earlier, like with the, you know, what happens after or what can happen after, but also to see the signs and for people who are not in the situation to understand a lot better about the diversity within abuse and the complexity and the difficulty and the challenge and the systemic changes that are still needed in our society, but the individual changes for all of us to know better, to do better. Oh, yeah, I'm saying that, do better, but like know better, be informed, so we're not spreading
Knowledge is
disinformation
power. Knowing better is
in the
it
beginning.
preempts it. Then you work on the capacity to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying go out there and, change the laws or whatever, like whatever your capacity allows, but that at least shifting and changing and knowing better in our minds about, yeah, what goes on and what the truth is as well out there. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome, Kim. I will put the details of the book and we'll also have the link to your the connection.
Capacity for connection.
Capacity for connection, the other way around, Shannon. And I'm going to check that out as well because I think it'll be so relevant, the work that I do as well. And I see a lot of parents, so I'll definitely get them onto that too. So thank you so much for putting that out there too. But thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Midlife Reclaimed. I hope today's conversation has reminded you that you are not alone and that change is possible even in the busiest seasons of life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, rate, or review the podcast and share it with another midlife woman who might need it. For more resources on navigating midlife stress, overwhelm, and burnout, along with reflective writing prompts and community connection, visit shannonaswales.com. You can also watch full episodes on YouTube at Midlife Reclaimed. Remember, you have permission to slow down, to rest, and to reclaim what matters most. See you again soon.